The fluorescent lights of the courthouse bathroom hummed above her head, a harsh white glare bouncing off the cracked mirror. Captain Maya Henderson adjusted her uniform collar. The Delta Force insignia pinned neatly, her reflection calm though her pulse raced. She had testified against corrupt contractors last month, men with power. Men who did not forget. When she stepped into the hallway, the echo of her boots stopped short. Two deputies blocked her path, both white, both smirking as if they had rehearsed this moment. Captain Henderson, one said, the badge on his chest gleaming. You're under arrest. Her stomach dropped. On what charge? He didn't flinch. Forgery, identity fraud, resisting authority. Words fired off like bullets, deliberate lies stacked one over the other. Behind them, a judge's aide passed, eyes darting away, silence heavy as stone. No one intervened. No one asked questions. Her wrists were yanked forward, cold steel biting her skin. The hall grew louder, the shuffling of papers, the faint buzz of a news crew's microphone warming up. She realized this wasn't just an arrest. It was a performance. The deputy leaned close, voice low enough for her alone. Let's see how tough a soldier looks in chains. The click of the cuffs snapped louder than gunfire. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashing, headlines already written. Maya's chest burned. She could take battlefield fire, but this was humiliation dressed in legality. And then came the order, spoken flat and merciless. Transfer her to Blackridge Correctional Male Population. Her knees nearly buckled. The deputies dragged her forward. She stared at the cameras, at the judge's door left slightly ajar, knowing she had been sacrificed. The crowd's noise blurred. The door to her future slammed shut. The marble floor gleamed beneath Maya Henderson's boots, but every step echoed like a countdown. She kept her spine straight, shoulders squared, even as the stairs pressed on her like weight. The cameras had multiplied since the arrest, every lens hungry for the image of a black woman in cuffs. Deputy Cross tugged her forward. Smile for your fans. Captain, I earned that title, Maya said, voice low, sharp. You didn't. The smirk on his face widened. Not anymore, you didn't. A flash blinded her. Reporters shouted questions. Captain Henderson, did you forge the documents? Are you impersonating a Delta officer? Why would a decorated veteran stoop this low? She kept silent. Words would be twisted before they left her mouth. Inside processing, a clerk barely lifted his head. Name, you know my name. Say it for the record. Maya Henderson, Captain, United States Army. The clerk scribbled lazily, eyes avoiding hers. Not anymore. He stamped the form, the thud louder than the cuffs. Cross leaned in close as he guided her to think. Hope you're ready, Captain. Men's block don't get many ladies. Her jaw locked. You'll regret every word. Threats already. His laugh scraped against her skin. You'll regret breathing. The camera snapped again, immortalizing her humiliation. Reporters shouted like vultures circling. She saw a young black officer by the door avert his gaze, shame in his silence. Maya's wrists throbbed in the cuffs, metal cutting deeper with each step. She swallowed the fire in her throat. On the battlefield, fire meant survival. Here, it meant they won. The holding cell door slammed shut. The sound carried through her bones. And for the first time since Iraq, Maya realized she might not walk out alive. The prison transport bus reeked of diesel, sweat, and rust. Maya's wrists were chained to a waist belt, ankles shackled together. Every jolt of the suspension drove cold metal into her skin. The guard at the front barked, "Load M tight. Don't leave her space." They shoved her into a seat between two men. Both stared. One smirked. The other let his eyes crawl slow and deliberate. Didn't know they sent women with us, the smirker said. His teeth were chipped, smile crooked. What did you do, sweetheart? Kill your boyfriend. Maya's gaze fixed forward. Silence was armor. Hey, the other muttered, voice low. She ain't no sweetheart. Look at the way she sits. Military. The first man laughed. Military don't mean nothin' here. Here, you just meet in chains. The guard turned, lips curled in amusement. You boys be nice now. She's special delivery. Maya's hands tightened in the cuffs. She wanted to speak, to remind them of the missions she led, of the medals they'd never touch, but her words would be stripped, twisted, used as spectacle. The bus rumbled down the interstate. Outside, city towers gave way to fields, then fences topped with razor wire. The ride felt endless. Hey, Captain, the smirker said suddenly, as if savoring the word he shouldn't know. What's it like going from commanding men to sitting chained with M? Maya turned, eyes sharp as blades. What's it like breathing when you should be silent? For a second, the bus went still. The man's grin faltered, then broke into a cough of laughter. Oh, she's got teeth. The guard chuckled. Won't matter where she's going. Teeth don't last. The second prisoner leaned closer, whispering so only she could hear. Don't show them fear. They'll eat it. Her throat tightened, but she gave a single nod. Tactical advice, battlefield truth. The bus braked hard. Ahead loomed Blackridge Correctional, gray walls, swallowing the horizon, towers with rifles pointed down. The smirker tapped the window with his cuffed hands. Welcome to hell, Captain. The doors hissed open. Guards shouted. Chains clinked like instruments in an ugly symphony. Maya inhaled, steadying herself. She had walked into war zones with less certainty of survival, but here, the battlefield was tilted. Rules written to erase her. As they dragged her down the steps, one guard leaned in, voice calm and poisonous. You don't belong here, Henderson. That's the point. The gates closed behind her with a metallic crash, sealing the truth. Her war had just begun. The intake wings smelled of bleach layered over sweat, a sharp tang that clung to the back of Maya's throat. The fluorescent lights hummed, buzzing like wasps overhead, throwing every shadow into stark relief. Guards lined the corridor, clipboards in hand, smirks on their faces. She could feel their eyes measuring her not as a soldier, not even as a woman, but as a spectacle. Captain Henderson, one drawled, the syllables stretched with mock respect. Welcome to Blackridge Correctional. Population. Wolves and you're the lamb. Maya's lips pressed tight. Silence was control. They led her past cells where men pressed against the bars. Voices rose, layered with laughter, jeers, and hunger. Ain't she pretty in chains? Delta Force, bet she cries like the rest. Yo, soldier girl, you salute me, I'll protect you. The noise pressed like a wall. Maya kept her eyes forward, boots steady, posture unbroken. A Delta commander did not flinch. Inside processing. Another guard took her cuffs off with deliberate slowness. His fingers brushed her wrist longer than necessary. Enjoy your stay. Her jaw tightened. Keep your hands where they belong. His grin spread. You don't get to give orders here. The strip search followed. She stood rigid as commands were barked. Humiliation sharp as knives. Not a battlefield wound. But it bled all the same by the time she was led into the general population block. Her uniform had been replaced with orange cloth, her insignia stolen. Men stared openly from bunks and tables, conversations halting mid-sentence. A tall inmate with tattoos curling up his neck leaned back in his chair. What we got here? Government experiment. The guard shoved her inside, locking the gate behind her. Play nice, boys. She's fragile. Laughter rippled through the block. Maya's chest burned, but she walked steady to the corner, claiming a bunk against the wall. The tattooed man stood, approaching with slow steps. Name. Her gaze cut into him. Henderson. He tilted his head. You military. Was. Not anymore. His eyes scanned her stance, the way her shoulders squared, the way her feet balanced unconsciously. He smirked. Still carries herself like she owns the room. Maybe she does. Another voice called. Older, gravelly. From the far table, a gray-haired man watched her, scars ridging his face. I've seen that look. That's a fighter. The tattooed one chuckled. Fighter or not, this place eats fighters. Maya's voice was steady, low. I've fought wars bigger than this place. Silence dropped like a stone. A few men exchanged glances. The gray-haired one gave a small nod. Respect acknowledged. The tattooed man laughed again, but this time it rang hollow. We'll see. He turned back to his table, muttering to his crew. The block returned to noise, but something had shifted. Not acceptance, not safety, but recognition. That night, lying on the thin mattress, Maya stared at the ceiling. Every clang of metal, every shout from down the hall drilled into her skull. She replayed the guard's words. You don't belong here. That's the point. That her body remembered. Sandstorms, firefights, the sharp crack of rifles. But this war was different. This war used silence as a weapon, humiliation as a blade, and still, she whispered to herself in the dark, a soldier's promise. They will not break me. The warden's office looked nothing like the rest of Black. Polished oak desk, leather chair, walls lined with framed commendations. It smelled of cigar smoke and disinfectant power, and pretense layered together. Maya was escorted in by two guards, wrists cuffed, though she had offered no resistance. The warden didn't rise. He leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowed, a predator studying prey. So, he said, voice smooth but edged with steel. Captain Maya Henderson, Delta Force. The system delivers strange gifts. Maya's chin lifted. You know this is a mistake. I don't belong here. The warden smiled faintly. Belonging is relative. Paperwork says you're here. That makes it true. Her hands flexed in the cuffs. Paperwork can be forged. He leaned forward, elbows on the desk. You're a soldier. You know how chains of command work. The report is filed, the judge signed off, and here you are. What you were doesn't matter. What I say now does. One guard chuckled. The other cracked his knuckles, watching her. Maya's voice stayed level. Abuse of power doesn't last forever. Someone always answers for it. The warden tapped ash from his cigar into a tray. Slow and deliberate. Optimistic. Let me explain something, Captain. Blackridge is my kingdom. Here, I decide who eats, who bleeds, who disappears. And you, he gestured to her with the cigar, your leverage, a pawn that fell into my lap. Maya's jaw clenched. Leverage for what? The warden's smile deepened. For reminding men like you that power is color, status, timing. You embarrass powerful people, Henderson. They wanted you silenced. I simply provided the stage. Silence thickened. The guards shifted, amused at her stillness. Maya spoke finally, quiet but sharp. Stage shows end. Audiences change. Remember that. The warden leaned back again, exhaling smoke toward the ceiling. Strong words, but words don't echo far in concrete. I'll put you in Block D. The animals will test you. We'll see how long that soldier's spine holds. He waved a hand. The guards seized her arms, as they dragged her out. The warden called after her. And Henderson, she paused, forced to turn. Don't forget, here, survival is my permission, not your right. The cell block door slammed behind her minutes later, the echo vibrating in her chest. She stood surrounded by walls that swallowed sound and light. The warden's words burned in her skull. This wasn't just imprisonment. It was theater, and she had been cast as the sacrifice. Block D never slept. Even in the middle of the night, voices echoed laughs, too sharp, whispers too low, metal rattling as men shifted in bunks. The air reeked of sweat, cheap soap, and iron. Maya sat on her bunk, back against the wall, eyes scanning every movement. A soldier's vigilance never dulled. The tattooed inmate from before Deacon approached, 2 men at his side. His smirk was sharp in the dim light. Captain Henderson, he drawled, still breathing, impressive. Maya's gaze stayed locked on him. What do you want? Deacon leaned on the frame of her bunk. Respect, power, same as anyone here. But you're different. You don't fold. His friend snorted. Different don't mean safe. Deacon silenced him with a look, then returned his focus to her. You walk like a soldier. You think like one. That gets noticed. Some want to test you. Others might want to use you. I don't get used. He chuckled. That's what I figured. He studied her for a moment, then lowered his voice. The warden put you here on purpose. Everybody knows it. He wants a show. Sooner or later, he'll send someone at you. When that happens, you'll need allies. Maya shifted forward, chains at her ankles clinking. And you're volunteering. Not charity, Deacon said. Mutual benefit. You don't flinch. Men follow strength, even if it comes in the wrong package. From the far table, the gray-haired Maitreya spoke. He's right. This place eats loners, but alliances keep you breathing. Maya studied them both, weighing tone, posture, calculation. She could smell opportunism, but also survival. Her training whispered, build assets, control risk. You want me to trust you, she said finally. Then prove you're not part of the warden's game. Reyes leaned forward, scars catching the light. Game or not, we've been in it long before you. You want to live. You'll need more than your war stories. Maya stood, eyes level with Deacon's. I don't tell war stories. I make sure the ending belongs to me. Deacon's grin widened. Then, maybe we'll get along. That night, whispers carried through the block. A woman soldier who refused to bow. Men circling her name like wolves testing the edges of firelight. Maya lay back on her bunk, mind calculating routes, faces, words. She didn't trust Deacon. She didn't trust Reyes. But survival was never about trust. It was about leverage. And leverage, she reminded herself, was something she always knew how to find. The visitation room smelled of burnt coffee and floor wax, plastic chairs, scratched tables, guards watching from every corner. Maya wasn't allowed here yet, but the echoes of conversations filtered through, carried back by whispers from inmates whose families still fought for them. Outside, her name was stirring. In a cramped law office downtown. Maya's younger sister, Alicia, slammed a newspaper onto the desk. The headline screamed, decorated soldier charged with fraud. This is insanity, Alicia snapped. They've buried her in a men's prison. A men's prison. Maya's lawyer, Patel, adjusted his glasses, voice weary. I've filed appeals, each one blocked. Judges claim jurisdiction issues. Clerks lose documents. Every path leads to the same dead end. Alicia leaned forward, eyes fierce. So we shout louder. Press conferences, social media, whatever it takes. Patel hesitated. Understand, the system isn't broken for her. It's working exactly as intended. Alicia's fists tightened. Then we break it back. Inside Black, the whispers reached Maya. A young guard slipped near her cell, muttering as if by accident. Your people making noise. Papers, lawyers, won't matter. Then he walked away, leaving only the echo of contempt. Later, in the yard, Reyes approached her during exercise. Word is, folks outside are fighting for you. Maya's eyes narrowed. How do you know? Reyes shrugged. Old heads keep ears open. Guards talk. They think you'll burn out faster if hope keeps dangling. Deacon joined. Grin sharp. Hope is bait. They dangle it. See if you choke. Maya's jaw tightened. Then I won't choke. Reyes studied her. You're strong, but strong don't win alone. Out there, they fight with papers and cameras. In here, you fight with silence and fear. 2 wars, same enemy. She exhaled slowly, the truth heavy, and the enemy writes the rules. Deacon's grin faded. Not forever. Back outside, Patel stood before microphones, cameras flashing. My client, Captain Maya Henderson, is a decorated Delta Force officer wrongfully imprisoned in a men's facility. We demand immediate review. Reporters shouted questions. One asked bluntly. Captain Henderson's arrest was signed off by 3 judges. Are you saying the courts are corrupt? Patel's mouth tightened. I'm saying the process has been weaponized against her. The footage aired that night, but carefully edited. Maya's military record minimized. The fraud charges highlighted. Online comments split. Venom and support colliding in the scroll of endless feed. In her cell, Maya sat on her bunk as the evening count echoed through the block. She had heard about the press conference from Reyes, who heard from another inmate whose cousin had called. Whispers traveled faster than truth. Her fists closed around nothing. She thought of Alicia, of Patel, fighting uphill in a storm designed to break them. She wanted to be there, to fight beside them with words, not shackles. Instead, she whispered to herself, voice steady against the hum of the prison. They will not bury me. Not in silence. The guard walked past, smirking. Talking to yourself already. Clock's ticking. Captain Maya lifted her eyes, fire locked behind calm. I don't talk to myself. I plan. And though the walls swallowed sound, her resolve carried down echo beyond the prison, into a world slowly waking to her truth. The rain hammered the prison yard, soaking orange jumpsuits and pooling in the cracks of concrete. Maya stood beneath the storm, head unbowed, every drop a drumbeat on her skin. Around her, inmates muttered, guards barked orders, and the world seemed locked in monotony, until a single slip of conversation cut through. 2 guards leaned near the fence, voices low but not low enough. Warden says she's here to disappear. Paperwork's airtight. Even if she screams, no one hears. Maya froze, ears tuned, every nerve sharpened. The men lit cigarettes, laughing at their own cruelty. Then moved on. Later, back in Block D, she recounted the words to Reyes and Deacon in whispers. They said the warden's orders came from higher, that I'm not meant to leave alive. Reyes's scarred face darkened. Doesn't surprise me. Blackridge is a graveyard with paperwork. Deacon leaned closer, grin gone. But now, you've got proof. Their mouths run faster than their brains. Proof isn't enough, Maya said. I need leverage. Something that leaves this place. Deacon tapped the side of his head. One of the guards owes me. Smuggled favors before. For a price, he'll pass a message. Maya studied him. And the price. Deacon smirked faintly. Protection. Words out that some inmates want to test you. You back me when they move, and I'll get your message to the outside. Reyes cut in, voice gravel. Deals with snakes get you bitten. Maya's gaze stayed locked on Deacon. Sometimes snakes bite the hand that feeds them. That's useful. The pact was silent but sealed in that moment. That night, a young guard lingered by Maya's cell. He slid a folded slip of paper beneath the bars. Voice hushed. Don't say I gave you this. When she opened it, the words were scrawled in a rush. Transfer order Friday, midnight. Accidental death staged. Her heart slammed in her chest. The warden wasn't waiting. The clock was already set. She whispered to the empty dark, voice steady despite the quake inside her. They think silence buries me. Silence will expose them. The paper crumpled in her fist, but the truth burned brighter. The war had a deadline now, and Maya intended to fight it. The day of the staged transfer bled tension into every corner of Black. Guards moved sharper, conversations dropped at her approach, and even the air seemed charged with static. Maya felt it in her bones. The countdown was real. Evening mess was the first spark. A tray slammed onto the table where she sat, food splattering. 3 inmates circled, eyes cold. Soldier girl, one sneered. Heard you think you run things. Maya stayed seated, voice steady. I don't run anything. I survive. The second leaned closer. Not tonight. You don't. Before the swing landed, Deacon appeared, sliding between them, grin, sharp. She's under my wing. Anyone touches her, they touch me. The mess hall quieted, watching. The warden's game had entered open play. The guard on duty didn't intervene. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, waiting. Reyes rose from his corner, voice like gravel striking stone. Enough. This isn't about pride, it's about bait. The words cut sharper than fists. The circling inmates faltered, realizing the truth. They were being used. Still, fists flew, trays crashed, and chaos roared. Maya's training took over. She ducked a swing, pivoted, and drove her shoulder into the attacker's chest. Shackled ankles limited her speed, but precision replaced power. She moved with soldier's instinct, each strike measured. Shouts erupted. Guards rushed in, not to break it up, but to escalate. Buttons cracking, voices snarling. Lock her down. Warden's orders. Hands yanked her arms. Chains twisted. Pain shot through her wrists. But before they dragged her out, Reyes stepped in front of her, absorbing a baton strike across his scarred back. Not like this, he growled. That deacon shoved another inmate aside, grinning through blood. If she goes down, we all go down. Noisy. The mess hall exploded, voices uniting in rage. Chaos spread beyond control. Guards lost their rhythm. The spectacle turned on its master. Hours later, bruised and bloodied, Maya was thrown into solitary. The steel door clanged shut, darkness swallowing her. But her body trembled, not with fear, but clarity. The warden had forced her into fire end. Fire revealed alliances. Through the slit in the door, a whisper reached her ear. It was the young guard again, breath ragged. You've got people outside listening now. That slip you gave Mitz out. News is circling. They can't bury it anymore. Maya pressed her forehead to the cold steel, chest heaving. The proof had escaped. The silence was breaking. The warden would strike harder, but so would she. That night, alone in the dark, she whispered to herself, words steady as a soldier's oath. This isn't their stage anymore. It's mine. And the silence answered back with the rhythm of dripping pipes. Like a drumbeat for war. Morning broke with a storm of noise, not inside Blackridge but beyond its walls. The warden's television flickered with headlines he couldn't suppress. Delta Force commander, imprisoned in men's facility. Evidence of cover-up surfaces. His jaw tightened. Who leaked it? The deputy warden shifted nervously. Reporters got copies of the transfer order. Somebody on the inside passed it. The warden's cigar snapped in his fist. Find them, silence them. Inside her cell, Maya heard the whispers before the guards arrived. Inmates murmured her name like a spark, traveling wire to wire. Respect now mingled with fear. She wasn't just surviving. She was unraveling the system that caged them all. When the guards dragged her to the visitation hall, the room was already packed. Cameras lined the far glass wall, microphones jostling. For the first time, Maya was not hidden. Her lawyer, Patel, sat across from her, eyes alight. The transfer order was leaked. The world sees it now. They can't bury this anymore. Maya leaned forward, voice low but sharp. Then we don't let them change the narrative. We push. Patel nodded. Press conference at noon. You'll speak by phone. Say only what matters. Truth they can't twist. Hours later, the call went live. Reporters hushed as Maya's voice carried through the speakerphone, clear and unflinching. My name is Captain Maya Henderson. I served this country with honor. I was betrayed by a system that punished me not for crime, but for being who I am. I was buried in a men's prison to be broken in silence. I will not be silent. The words cut across airwaves, across homes, across the warden's office where his face paled with every syllable. A reporter asked, Captain, who is responsible? Maya's pause was deliberate. Then, steel in her tone, the warden of Blackridge Correctional, and the officials who conspired with him. Their signatures are on the orders. The evidence is clear. The line went dead, but the storm had already broken. In the block that night, inmates banged fists on metal bunks in rhythm. A crude salute. Guards barked for silence, but the sound kept building a chant. A roar, a refusal. Maya sat on her bunk, bruised but unbowed. The war wasn't over. The walls still held her. But for the first time, she wasn't alone. Outside, the world demanded answers. Inside, the warden's kingdom trembled. And Maya knew exposure was the first step. Justice was coming. The courtroom was suffocatingly silent. Reporters filled every bench, cameras flashing as if trying to carve the moment into permanence. At the defense table, Warden Krantz sat rigid, his one-sided jaw slack under the weight of exposure. Maya entered in shackles, but her posture was upright, military steel still in her spine. The bailiff's order to rise echoed, and the room obeyed. Judge Morales peered over her glasses. This hearing concerns the unlawful imprisonment of Captain Maya Henderson and the conduct of Blackridge officials. All evidence will be entered into the record. Patel rose. Your Honor, Exhibit A, the transfer order signed by Warden Krantz, knowingly placing my client in a men's maximum security prison, despite her classification. Exhibit B, sworn statements from guards and inmates confirming harassment and orchestrated abuse. Exhibit C, testimony from Captain Henderson herself. The documents slammed onto the record table. The microphones caught every rustle of paper. Krantz leaned toward his attorney, hissing, "This is political theater. None of this sticks." But Maya's eyes cut across the room. It sticks, because truth always leaves scars. When called, she spoke without tremor. I served this nation in combat. I buried soldiers, carried their tags home. Yet here, in my own country, I was stripped of dignity and condemned without crime. They thought no one would believe me. That's what racism does. It hides behind procedure and paper. The gallery was motionless, drawn into her words like gravity. Krantz erupted, slamming his palm on the table. She's lying. She was never fit for service. The judge's gavel cracked down. Silence, Warden Krantz. Patel didn't miss his opening. You just proved the case, sir. Your contempt drips in every word. Outside the courthouse, protesters gathered, holding signs, "Justice for Maya. End corruption. No more silence." Inside, the judge's ruling rang out. This court finds that Captain Maya Henderson was wrongfully confined, subjected to inhumane treatment, and denied constitutional protections. The responsible parties, including Warden Krantz, are hereby indicted for misconduct, perjury, and abuse of authority. Captain Henderson is released effective immediately. Shackles unlocked. The clatter was louder than any gavel. That as Maya stepped outside, the crowd erupted. Flashbulbs flared like gunfire, chants rising in waves. She inhaled the cold air, freedom sharp in her lungs. Yet her eyes carried the storm she'd survived. A young woman pushed through the crowd, tears streaking her cheeks. "Captain Henderson, my brother's inside black. You gave us hope." Maya placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then don't stop pushing. Justice isn't just for Mitts, for all of us." That night, news anchors replayed her testimony on loop. Krantz was led away in cuffs, face twisted with disbelief. Commentators called it a reckoning, a shift, a warning to every institution that thought silence was safety. Alone in her apartment, Maya stood by the window. The city lights glowed, indifferent and eternal. She sipped water, hands steady, yet in her chest the echo of the cell still pulsed. Freedom didn't erase scars. It carved them deeper, turned them into warnings. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She answered. A voice she hadn't heard in years whispered, "Captain, we need someone who won't break. Not again. Not after what you proved." Maya stared into the dark. She had been caged, betrayed, exposed, but she had also become undeniable. Her reply was simple. "Then, let's get to work." The war was larger than her, but she was still standing, and standing was enough to make the walls tremble. Justice had struck once. It would strike again.